myself. So I'm Lilah, Miss Summerlin 2025, and today I'm here with a few of my lovely coworkers where we're talk everything being a woman in the sports industry. So I just want everyone to start by just doing introduce yourself, your job title, and then like a brief little job description. I'll start. I'm the moderator today, but I am a government and community relations coordinator. So I work closely with the community relations department and with the SVP of Government Relations to, find the intersection between community and government and also make sure that we have a healthy and nice relationship with all our elected officials. Shelby, you want to go next?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, I'm Shelby Hurd. I am originally from Tracy, California, up in the valley of Northern California. I moved out here about 8 years ago to attend UNLV, where I studied hospitality. And I started my career with the Raiders about 5 years ago, and I am in the community relations department. So we have the amazing privilege to work with a variety of nonprofits all throughout the Las Vegas Valley. And we get to know these organizations. We get to find out how we're able to support their mission and their initiatives. And we do this through donations. We do in-kind donations. We do event sponsorships. We do a lot of CR programming events where we're able to create these amazing experiences for organizations that serve youth. They serve military and veterans. They also serve a large demographic of Las Vegas, and we get to really invite them into different experiences that they may not be able to experience otherwise. And it's incredible just to get our hands in the community and really just see how we're able to support the amazing initiatives in a very diverse way as well. So that is a little bit about what I do at the Raiders.
Thank you, Shelby. We'll go to Winnie next.
Hi, I'm Winnie. I moved here maybe 3 years ago. I'm originally from the Bay Area. I am a specialist for the Raiders Foundation. The Raiders Foundation is the nonprofit arm of the Raiders. We have three main pillars, which is military and veterans, youth development, and health and wellness. And we support many different organizations throughout Nevada in those pillars, mainly through grant making and fundraising in different ways, such as license plates. We do the 50-50 raffles on game days. And then we also do legacy bricks at the stadium. But yeah.
Okay, thank you, Winnie. Let's go Marli next.
Hi, I'm Marli. I'm the football development manager for the Raiders. What we do is youth and high school football across all levels, flag, tackle, wheelchair, any kind of football in the Valley area. We have a part in it. I specifically work with the youth flag football and the high school girls flag football.
Nice, thank you. Last but not least, Victoria.
Hello, everyone. I'm Victoria Alejandre, Community Relations Manager with the Raiders. I am newer to the team, but with the Community Relations Department, as Shelby mentioned, we really want to bridge the gap between community organizations, the youth, and the Raiders to really allow them to understand how accessible we are and really make those lasting memories so that they become lifelong Raiders fans and join us celebrating our Raiders on game day.
Thank you. Okay, so first I just want to talk about like in general because personally I never really saw myself working in the sports industry. So I wanted to just ask the group, anyone can jump in here. Did you always see yourself working in the sports industry, and what if anything piqued your interest in sports?
I'll jump in. Honestly, no, I did not see myself in sports either. I actually started in culinary school where I got my associates in baking and pastry, and the goal was to work in restaurants, open up a bakery. I moved here and I saw really quickly how expansive the hospitality industry really is, and that sports is really at the forefront, especially being in Las Vegas, where we have had the Golden Knights come. We might have the A's come shortly as well. So it's really growing in this valley. And so sports has always been hugely important to me growing up. And football was never something that I really watched every single weekend, but I just really think sports just teaches everyone so much. Like it teaches discipline, teamwork, different skills, personality traits. I think it's just so important. It's such a great quality. And so when I saw the Raiders position opened up, I quickly jumped in and applied, and it has been amazing ever since. So even if you don't see yourself working in sports, it is so much more than what you see on TV every weekend. There's so much behind the scenes that I really had the chance to learn coming into this industry, such as it's not just the football that you watch, it's also the community relations that we're able to build. It's taking care of our alumni and our alumni players. And there's so many different departments at the Raiders that all help this, that make everything a reality. So I think it's a lot more than I ever anticipated. And there's so many doors and so many opportunities. So I'd really encourage everyone to just look into it, and there's always a way to find your passion. So yeah.
It's great. Thank you. Anyone else have an answer to that question?
I'll jump in. I'll say for me, yes. I always saw myself in sports. I was an athlete since I was like 4 years old. Went to college. I found out you could major in sports and sports management. It was like, oh, sold. I was a college athlete all the way through. And when I found out there were jobs in pro sports other than, being a coach, being a player, it was easy. I got an internship before I graduated college with the Chiefs, started in football. Bounced around a little bit between basketball, did a little stint with baseball, but football has always been like where my heart is. So obviously I'm back in football, but I say it sounds crazy, but I don't know anything but sports. That's all I've ever done like my whole life. So it wasn't really an option to go another path for me.
Well, that's great. Winnie or Victoria?
Yeah. I'll say I've always wanted to go in sports. I grew up, my whole family, they all play sports. My sisters played volleyball and soccer, and all my cousins played football. So we spent our weekends at Summerlin's game. So I've just been surrounded by sports my whole life. And I knew I was very passionate about football. I grew up going to like NFL games with my dad. So I knew I wanted to go into sports, and specifically football. It was one of the main reasons why I moved to Vegas, because Vegas is such a sports hub right now, and it's such a great place to be for specifically sports. And I joined the Raiders as an ambassador, which was a good way to get my foot in the door, because like Shelby said, there's so many different roles you can be in within the sports industry, and that the ambassador program kind of helped me realize that and get to where I am today. So
It's great. Well, Victoria, I kind of have a specific question for you because, as you mentioned, you're newer to the team and you recently transitioned from the healthcare industry into the sports industry. So I just want to ask, like, what has that transition been like, and what have you learned about working in sports?
So the transition has been a whirlwind. I will say that it has definitely been a lot of fun. I was in the healthcare field for about 8.5 years. It was an amazing time. I got to kind of do the same thing, work with communities, really bridge those gaps between social services and those needs in the community. The problem was funding is very limited. The amount of reach that you can really have with the community is also very limited. And health and wellness is so important. And so when I first found out that the Raiders do a lot of health and wellness, actually at an event that we were throwing, it piqued my interest. And that is kind of where I started looking into what do different sports organizations deal with health and wellness, and what is their reach. If we can if we can change the habits of just one child will then have their own children and their own brothers and sisters, which will then have that lineage to have healthier habits. I'll throw this quick healthcare fact in there, but we have 1 in 3 people with prediabetes, and 90% of them don't know it. And so prediabetes then leads to type 2 diabetes and a whole bunch of comorbidities like heart disease and all of that. And Nevada ranks top 5 in those. And so it's very important to start young and start building those healthy habits, because the younger that you build those healthier habits, the longer you will keep them. And so we want to build those healthier, more sustainable communities. And so knowing that I can transition over to the sports field and really have a wider audience and a wider reach to really spread that message and bridge the gap between, it doesn't matter what zip code you're in, yes, you have certain predispositions, but that doesn't define all of the health and wellness that you have exposure to. And so that is really my passion, is the exposure part of it, and really just the championship and the efficacy of knowing that there's other things out there, and that sports isn't just the football side, that there's so many other things that really care about the individual as a whole. And so that's what really sold me into joining into the sports industry, is knowing really what the passion is and what those paths are. It's amazing to work with the Raiders, but it's even more amazing to know that we have that passion and that structure to really build out for communities way after we're gone, that there's going to be a legacy for those kids to follow.
Well, it's great. Thank you. I'm going to jump backwards a little bit to talk about college. I know I personally majored in public affairs, which obviously is not a sports degree. And so I found that even though I didn't have a sports management or sports bachelor's, that my degree has still been very transferable into my job. So I just wanted to see if anyone wanted to talk about like what they studied and if they found that it has been transferable into the sports industry, or maybe it hasn't and you've like adapted, like if anyone has anything specific, maybe.
Can start.
Thank you.
For when I moved out here to UNLV, I joined the hospitality college and majored in hospitality management. And I did do a concentration of food and beverage since I was working in restaurants at the time and thought that was the direction I was going to go until I learned about the vast world about sports and everything that goes on behind the curtain to sports. But I will say hospitality is very people oriented. It's how to work with others. And it's also the main key is also how to create these experiences for others, whether it's in hotels, on a cruise ship, inside restaurants, or even at sporting games and Raiders games. It's all about creating those experiences for the guests and their fans and their families, and truly making sure that they have the best time. And I think that really does translate into our job, just going out into the community, really seeing how we can support them and how we can create those experiences that are tailored to what they could use support wise, and also what's beneficial for them and how it could help them. So I think kind of just learning all about the ins and outs of like hospitality and how to really elevate experiences and how to work with people as well as teamwork. I think teamwork really does make the dream work, especially at the Raiders. I think the culture there and the teams that we work with in all different departments, because just for one community event, we could easily be working with 10 to 15 different departments at the Raiders. So it really does take everyone's hands in the pot to make these things come to life. And I think teamwork is one of the biggest things working in college and working in those groups and really working towards a common goal to make it come to life. So I would say that's how it really helped me where I am today.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I'll say majoring in sports management, there was classes for finance, for economics, like field operations, like everything essentially but community relations. So when I got to the point of an internship and saw community relations, I really didn't know what that was, what that entailed. It just kind of fell in my lap, and I loved what the work became. But I would say even as a sport management major, I had no idea what I was walking into my first, internship in community relations.
Mm-hmm. So I want the takeaway here to be: you do not need to major in a classic sports major to have a career in sports. And you can, and like Marli said, she still felt like she didn't necessarily get a community relations education in her sports degree, which I think is very interesting. Okay, we're gonna jump to the next question. I want to talk more about the Raiders organization because I know we kind of are at the forefront of DEI, and obviously we have a bunch of different employee resources. So I'm gonna ask you a question, Shelby. I think you know where this is going. You're on the board for Fierce, so can you tell us a little bit about Fierce?
Yeah, absolutely. So kind of how you mentioned, I think we're very lucky to work in an organization that really does treasure DEI, so diversity, equity, and inclusion. And they really created a bunch of different groups around based on employees and based on how we could use support. And one of the groups that they created is called Fierce, and it is the women's group at the Raiders. And it stands for Female, Inspire, Empower, Resilience, Confidence, and Equality. And being on the board has really helped hone in on my leadership skills as well as work with other incredible ladies. And the whole point of the organization, of the resource group at the organization, is really just to have a really big support group for all the women where we can support each other, both personally, both professionally, both in everyone's growth here at the Raiders. And it gives us opportunities to also dive into the community where we can get out there and make a difference together, as well as doing professional development events where we get to really sit down and talk to each other. And there is probably about 100, probably even more, 150 women at the Raiders organization, full-time employees in the front office. And it's not every day that we get to all get together and talk to different leaders and different staff members and teammates that we don't necessarily work with every day. And so getting to hear their advice and their experiences and their specific roles in the organization and how we can all help each other in our growth here is pretty incredible. It's really just a great safe space to really connect with each other on an organizational level, but also just personally too, and really building those friendships. And especially since we are in a male-dominated industry, it's great to have each other's backs and really show support for women really diving into the sports industry. And really, it's a great experience just all around. So it's great to be a part of it on the board to help ensure that our members do feel that they're getting events that benefit them, the support that they need and the resources. And it's a great team to be a part of. So I'm very thankful that the Raiders have such a huge passion and want to make sure that all the employees are taken care of and that we all have each other while we do everything that we do every day.
Thank you for that. So yeah, and I don't want to get these numbers correct, but we are in the 90th percentile for female employees, and also 45.5% of our senior leadership is female. So this is a question for everyone. I just wanted to say, obviously within our organization, we have a lot of higher up women to look up to: Sandra, Piper, Kiava, KB. So this question is for everyone, but like, how important do you think representation is in this industry for young girls who are interested in pursuing a career in sports?
I can jump in. I think it's super important for me, being able to work under these incredible women, these SVPs like Sandra as our president. We worked alongside Piper every day. It's really inspiring, and it's important, I think, for visibility to know that you can be in these spaces and you can get to these higher executive roles in the sports industry. Yes, it's a male-dominated industry, but you are capable of making it to those high positions.
Anyone else?
I'll add in that to Winnie's point. I think all of our team presidents, Sandra Douglas Morgan and Piper, and all of the women executives, I feel like they're so great. They're amazing at leading our organization. But I think that they're also so personable, and that they take the time to really provide resources and talk to other women like that are coming up in the sports industry and really give great advice. And I think it's incredible that we work in an organization that does have so many women leaders, and that they're always there as a resource and to help to inspire. To Winnie's point, it's very inspiring seeing all that they've accomplished and seeing that you can also do it too. And so, yeah.
Oh, that's great. Victoria or Marli, anything to add before we move on to the next question?
I would say, like, when Sandra got hired right before I did, and that was a big part of me accepting the job, seeing that the Raiders were, go outside the box and hire, a Black woman as, their team president. So just for me, that was just a big part of me even getting, accepting this position, being at this point.
That's great. Victoria?
I agree with the sentiment that both Winnie and Shelby said. I think it's very important to see that we do have women in such powerful positions, one that allows us to aspire to do better, be better, and achieve better. But also, the more that we're out in the field, people can see, like, yes, the Raiders are a football organization, but there's so much more than just the football side, that they can go into sports, and there's so many other caveats that they can explore, and they can reach for the stars too. And if they work hard and they really try their hardest, they can also one day hopefully be in some of these positions as well.
Yeah, I think representation in this industry is so important. And having someone like Sandra to lead us is incredible. And I know we don't take that for granted here. So kind of piggybacking off of this sentiment of representation, what do you guys think is the most important thing when supporting young girls who want to have a career in sports? Very open-ended question. To me, I think mentorship is very important. I honestly didn't really see myself working in sports until I met a mentor in the industry who taught me how much this industry has to offer. So I just wanted to see if you guys feel like that you also have that same sentiment, or if maybe there's something else you think you could do to support young girls who have an interest in a career in sports.
I think for me, it's like being out in the community, going to the girls' flag football practices, going to the showcase games, and even like playing with them. They see me out on the field still playing as well. I think them seeing somebody that literally does what they're doing, they can go, to that. They can reach that too. If I'm that accessible, and they can literally reach that spot. It's not that far away. So I think for me, like just being out in it, like literally putting yourself in it and allowing yourself to be a mentor or to be, what they need you to be, is huge for the young girls.
Yeah, that's great. Anyone else?
Yeah, I would agree with Marli's sentiment, being visible and being accessible. Just because I think, just for me personally, I was a young girl at one point wanting to get into the sports industry, and I always want to give back and make sure I'm available to other women who want to get into the industry and give my advice. And obviously, I'm still trying to work my way up in the sports industry, but it's always good to give my advice from my perspective now, and just making sure that I'm available for them if they need anything.
Yeah, that's great. Shelby or Victoria, anything to add before we move on to the next question?
I agree. I think encouragement, mentorship, like you stated, and really access is super important. I think what's also important to note is we may be told no, right? We're not always going to be guaranteed to be told yes. And so we have to be able to navigate those difficult conversations and those difficult experiences and say, how am I going to learn from this and continue going for my dream? It's definitely not going to be a one solution fits all, but if you have encouragement from someone, have that mentorship from someone who's in that industry, you're going to feel a little bit more capable to say, okay, I can keep trying and I will keep reaching for the stars to get into the spot that we want, right? So we're all in the sports field. Are we all going to continue going up in the sports field is always a question, right? And so we want to make sure that youth know that too. It's not just a one-stop fits all, but really, what do you envision yourself? What do you envision a future for yourself, and how can we make sure that you can achieve that?
Yeah, I agree completely. Shelby, anything to add?
Yeah, I would say it's so important to just stay open-minded, because you just never know what opportunities are going to come up or what doors are going to open. And football isn't something that I grew up directly around. I grew up around so many other sports, but football wasn't one of them. And so, but now coming into this role and just going for this position, not exactly knowing where it was going to lead me, and it led me to one of the best positions I could ever be in. And I'm so grateful for that. And I think just even if it's not something you really had your heart set on, give it a try if you have the opportunity, because you might find another door or another window that was even better than you could have imagined. And so I'll just say, just always believe in yourself and just keep going, and just really try to keep your mind open, because there is, especially within sports, there's hockey, there's baseball, there's football, there's so many incredible different opportunities in sports. So I'll just say, really just keep your mind open and always just go for it.
Yeah, that's great. So I kind of want to talk about the actual game of football. So Marli, I'm kind of going to jump to you. You're the only one of us that works directly with the sport itself. So I was wondering if you could kind of talk about what that's like, and also what it's like being the only woman in your department that works directly with the sport of football. And obviously you play flags, so a little bit about that as well.
I mean, it's a lot of fun. My job is to go out and to encourage kids to play football, encourage girls to play football. One of the things I get the most, I guess, like joy from is when girls get scholarships to college, and they got it from an event that we went to, or they got noticed by the USA national team, and they got noticed at an event that we held. I mean, it's a lot of fun for me, and then playing as well. That gives that access that I talked about earlier. There's so many high school girls, middle school girls that know how to access me when they have questions about working in sports, about playing sports, anything like that. And I mean, it makes me happy. I have the best job in the world, I feel like.
Yeah. Speaking of access, girls flag football is currently on the rise in popularity. It's becoming a state sanctioned sport all across the country. So I just wanted to ask you, what piece of advice would you give a young girl who's interested in getting into flag football?
I would say give it a try. Do it. There's you have nothing to lose, especially, if you're young starting out, you have absolutely nothing to lose. By the time you get to, high school to college, it'll be even bigger than it is now. There might be a league for it by then. So I would say at least just go for it.
That's great. Well, thank you for that. I am going to jump to Winnie now because you mentioned the ambassador program, and some people on here may not know what that is. So, you obviously started with the org as Raiders ambassador, and Shelby, you did as well. So, we have two former ambassadors on the call. But, Winnie, I just wanted to ask if you could tell us a little bit about the ambassador program and how was your transition going from ambassador to full time employee?
Yeah, of course. So the ambassador program is this part-time staff program. You are part-time seasonal. They usually hire around like draft time. So you help a lot with the different events that the Raiders put on, but you're also helping different departments. So you help alumni, you help community relations, foundation, you help football development. There's a few other departments that you get to work with as an ambassador, but I think it's perfect if you want to get into the sports industry, but are not really sure like what avenue you want to go into. So for myself, I originally wanted to be a sports broadcaster, but I am not great at public speaking, and I just didn't like being like in front of the camera. So I knew I figured it wasn't for me, but I still wanted to be involved in sports somehow. So I think the ambassador program came at the perfect time for me, where I knew I wanted to get into sports. And for me being in the nonprofit world now, I didn't imagine myself working in a nonprofit. I knew I wanted to be in sports, but not sure like in what avenue. So when I was working as ambassador, I got asked to help in the foundation department, and I just fell in love with the work. So I think it's perfect. Like, you never know, back to Shelby's point, being open-minded, you never know what work you would fall in love with at being in this industry. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Shelby, anything to add about ambassador program and also the transition that you also had between ambassador to full time?
Yeah, I honestly, Winnie, like to her point, it's just amazing because you really get to see all the work that goes on behind the curtain of the football industry. And so you get to work with all these amazing departments that she had mentioned. So you really get to kind of find what you're passionate about. And I don't think I would have found the role that I'm in if it wasn't for that program. Because that program really introduced you to community relations, but also so many different departments. So I kind of got to also see what everyone else does. So when I did make the transition to full time, it really helped because I already had background on a few things, just how different departments operate and kind of what their role is within the organization. So I think it was a great foot in the door, especially if you weren't really sure if this was for you or what you were passionate about within the sports industry. So I think it's an amazing group, and that's honestly where I made a ton of my friends and created those friendships and those relationships as well. And it really helped me grow personally and also professionally as well. There was a lot of different opportunities for growth, and it was an amazing program that couldn't highlight enough.
So if you are interested in sports and you don't know what you want to do, the Raiders Ambassador Program is for you. Okay, so this is going to be a two-part question for everyone. I'm just going to go down the line. First part, what is your favorite thing about working for the Raiders organization? Second part, what is one main takeaway about working in a male-dominated industry, parentheses, specifically the Raiders? I can start because I kind of want to answer this question. I think my favorite thing about working for the Raiders is how tight knit the employees are. I think in my previous job, you would go to work, you would work with your head down, and then you would leave. But I feel like especially in our department, we're one big family. And I also think the Raiders provides us resources such as Fierce and the other employee resource groups to really get connected with our fellow employees, which is something that I love and admire about the organization. And then the second part, I think my biggest takeaway is like finding your tribe kind of thing. As a woman in the male dominated industry, I think it's important to not necessarily form an alliance with the women that you work with, but to have a good relationship with them, because at the end of the day, your male coworkers are never really fully going to understand what it's like to be a woman working in the male industry. So that is my answer. Who wants to go next?
I'll echo your how you said the people. I think the culture at the Raiders is incredible, and I think that's one of the most amazing parts about working at the Raiders is the culture and the organization, and it all starts from ownership all the way through leadership, and which is incredible to see how valued the employees are, how they provide resources to us, and I think just working with the team that we work with it's the Raiders organization has so many talented individuals, and they all do different things in their departments, and it's amazing to get to learn from them and hear where they've been and how they've come up in the sports industry. And any advice? I'm so sorry, my cat. But I would say the culture is amazing. And then the second part with the male-dominated industry, I would just say never be afraid to raise your hand and share those ideas. And like when you're in meetings, and I just think it's so important to find your voice and don't be afraid to share it, because those ideas or even a thought could always lead to something amazing, and it can always like lead to a vision coming true and being executed. And so there's always a seat at the table for everyone, and I think it's amazing to just don't be afraid to speak up and share your ideas, because they're just as valuable as anyone else's. And the work we do is we're all capable of doing it. And like Lilah said, do find like those that you can lean on and that can support you in this, because you do need those, and you need the mentors, and you need your teammates and your people. And so I think all of that really is super important to keep in mind.
That's great. Thank you. Winnie, I'm going to jump to you.
Yeah, so I think one of my favorite parts, I think I agree with both of you, is the culture at the Raiders. I think everyone is so personable, and also even the higher ups, they're so accessible, right? We're able to go and talk to them, go into the office and like just be able to speak with them. I think that's one of my favorite parts. I think it's not the same in every work culture, especially like I think people might be afraid to like talk to their higher ups, but that's never been the case with us. I think the fact that everyone is so accessible is like one of my favorite parts, and we all get along really well, especially on our team. Like Lilah said, we're all a family essentially. And for the second part of the question, I think for me, kind of similar to Shelby's answer, was being able to find your voice and being able to voice that. I think it's so easy to be sidelined in the like to feel sidelined, I mean, in the sports industry, but I think everyone's voice is important. So just finding a way for yourself to be heard and be confident in your ideas and what you bring to the table.
That's great. Thank you. Marli, I'm going to jump to you.
I'd say my favorite part is like the way the organization takes care of us. I feel seen by the organization, whether it be through the ERGs, through leadership, being at, smaller events that you might not think are that important, but Sandra pulls up and you feel seen in the work you do. And I would say to the second part of the question, like you're at the table for a reason. You were placed here. You're here for a reason. You know what you're doing. Be confident in what you have to say, what you're doing. If you have to be a little louder, don't be afraid to be that way, because you're here for a reason. Your opinions, your thoughts, all that matters.
Yeah, that's great. And Victoria?
Pretty much the same sentiment that you ladies have already said. I think one of the biggest things that also attracted me to the Raiders that I've seen day in and day out is really the passion that everybody comes to work with. That's not at every single job. And so to have I have not met someone who is not passionate about the work that they do within the Raiders organization. And you feel that out in the community when we're out at the events. People are proud to be part of the Raiders organization. And that is so important for not only the community to see, but also the coworkers to see as well, to say like, this is a great place to be. So that is definitely one of the things that I love about working at the Raiders. And as Marli said, like you were placed in your position for a reason. Like who hired you believes in you. And so, like she said, you may have to be a little bit louder sometimes to get your voice across, but your voice is important. And I think we have to remember that, like our voice is impactful and important. And sometimes I think we forget how much our voice really means. And so just to continue to voice our opinions and to say like, hey, I think this might be a better idea, or this might be a better idea. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but until we try and learn, we really won't know. And so really you were picked for a specific reason. And so just always remember that as you're going into your meetings, into your events, just know like you have what it takes. So just believe in yourself, and everybody soon will follow suit too.
Mm-hmm. I agree with everything that was said. I remember my first day in the office was so scary, and I felt like I could not talk. Like I know I obviously could, but it's a lot of pressure. And I mean, Victoria, you came in a couple months ago, but it's a very high paced environment. So to kind of get thrown into it can kind of be overwhelming. So I do think finding your voice is extremely important in an industry like this. Okay, so we're at 12:40, so we're gonna start wrapping up. I think we've talked about a lot of different things today, all great things. Thank you guys so much for being here. But I did want to ask one last question to each person, and that is, what is your favorite project that you have worked on? We're gonna go backwards this time, so I'm gonna go Victoria first.
Okay. Well, this is one that I just did on my own, but we worked with the Southern Nevada Legal Aid Center to identify a family who had gone through some trials and tribulations, and we were able to send them to the Super Bowl. So they will actually be flying out to New Orleans next Friday. So I coordinated their whole trip. Everything is all expenses paid. So the Raiders are taking care of that. So it was really amazing to not only connect with the family, but also the organization, and just to see like how grateful they were for the Raiders to be able to give them this opportunity. One of the sons, he's in California in the military, and so he hadn't seen his dad and his brother in a little while. So this will also be like a little bit of a family reunion. And so I just think it kind of encompassed all of ours, where we had the younger son for youth development, but also just the family and also our military service. So it was really great to kind of see that and just see like how moved the family was to say like, how did we get picked and how were we the ones who received that spotlight? So it was really amazing working with the Legal Aid Center, all of the amazing work they do, but working with them to really help identify that family and really give them an experience worthwhile. So keep an eye out. There will be a video after the Super Bowl about their wonderful trip. So I think that was one that's been one of my most favorite ones so far.
That's great. Thank you. We're gonna jump to Marli, your favorite project that you worked on.
I'd say mine is Inspire. Inspire is our girls' high school flag football program. When I first got here, Inspire was just a one-day event. It was the girls' all-star game, and before the game, they participated in like a combine clinic, kind of stuff like that. My first year here, Inspire grew to, we hosted it at HQ. We had college coaches in to come scout, come check out some of the girls they may not have gotten to see before, or that may not have played in the All-Star game, but still, talented girls. And last year, my second year of Inspire, it grew even more to a 2-day event where a combine clinic the night before. We had 7 college coaches in. We had USA Football in to come check the girls out. Day 2 had a coaches clinic or a coaches panel where the college coaches got to talk to all the high school coaches, give them, kind of advice on scouting and recruiting, what they're looking for, as well as just coaching tips, X's and O's before they played in the All-Star game. And this year, the Inspire program has grown to be the entire high school girls flag football program. So that encompasses Showcase, that encompasses Inspire Honors, the award show we do at the end of the season, and then the All-Star game this summer. And last summer, we had 3 girls walk away from the day with scholarships. So that was awesome.
That's amazing. Thank you. Winnie, to you.
I would say for me, it's probably our grant cycles that we have twice a year. This is really our way to get into the community and support these nonprofits who do such great work in throughout Nevada. We have 2 grant cycles a year, in the spring and in the fall. And this past fall grant cycle, we got to do a couple site visits to the organizations that we gave grants to. And for me, that was really cool to be able to see. I think we visited Boys Town and Volunteers in Medicine of Southern Nevada, who do, both organizations do amazing work within the Las Vegas area. So for me to be able to see like where the dollars are going and like the amazing work that they do and get really hands-on and see the people that they're helping, for me, that's like my favorite part.
That's great. Thank you. And Shelby?
One of my favorites that we get to do every year is our Make-A-Wish visits. And so we get to work hand in hand with Make-A-Wish of Southern Nevada, who is the local chapter here, and they work with kids and families for kids who are going through critical illnesses, and they use it to give these kids some light in their life and create such a great experience for them. And so they work with all the different Make-A-Wish chapters nationally, and they select Raider fans that their wish is to either come and meet one of the players or go to Allegiant Stadium or attend a game. And we take that wish and we give them an entire experience where we welcome them into our Raiders headquarters. We get to meet the families and the kids, and just to see their passion for the Raiders is incredible. These are kids that they know the stats for any player. You could ask them anything about the team and they have that answer. And it is incredible just to spend the whole weekend with them, get to know them. We've had kids from Michigan, we've had kids from Colorado, the Bay Area, of course. So it's really great to see how far our passion for the Raiders really goes throughout the country. But getting to work with these kids and these families and give them experiences, I usually get to work with the families. We bring them into headquarters. We give them a whole tour. They get to meet the players, all the whole team, the whole roster, and then they get to come for the next day. They get to come to Allegiant Stadium. They get to see the whole Raiders game. They get to be on the sidelines, watching the players during warmups. Honestly, it's an amazing experience, and we get to give them like customized lockers and go all out to give them all the swag possible and make sure that they're ready for the game day. And it's just the smiles on their faces and just getting to see their reactions to something that they never thought they would have the opportunity to do or to see is amazing. And hearing their stories and just seeing how much they've gone through, and it's incredible. So never a dry eye in the room, but it's amazing to be a part of something so special.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it's amazing how we're all technically in the same department, but we all just touched on vastly different projects. So I think it's really cool. I just want to thank you guys for volunteering your time to do this today. That was all the questions I have, and he is getting really restless. So I just wanted to thank you guys for all being here and, helping me do this panel today. And I just wanted to say, if anyone has like any last words, any piece of advice they want to sign off with or not, just figured I'd open it up.
No, I just want to say thank you, Lilah, for giving us the space to talk about the work that we do. I know we don't always get to do this, so it was a great opportunity.
Of course.
Yeah, echoing Winnie. I'm sorry. But yeah, thank you so much for having us, Lilah, and for, like Winnie said, like letting us talk about like our passions and everything that has brought us to where we are today. And yeah, I would just say, just believe in yourself, because there really is so many different opportunities, and you'll find where your passion is. So thank you, Lilah.
Of course. Marli, Victoria, any last words before I end this meeting?
Same as those two. Thanks for giving us a platform. And to any of the young girls that are watching, that are interested, don't be afraid to jump. It's usually worth it.
Yeah. Just thank you, Lilah. You really gave us the space to really express not only what we do at the Raiders, but also our passion. I hope any of the girls that joined were able to kind of feel that passion through all of our answers, and really encourage them to look into the sports field and join into the sports fields as well.
Well, thank you guys so much. I know volunteering on a Saturday is not ideal, so I really appreciate you guys doing this. And with that, I will end the meeting, and he'll say bye to everyone. Okay, thank you guys.
Thanks, Lilah.